I'm Tatiana Siegel from The Hollywood Reporter, and it is my pleasure to introduce you to the actresses you've just seen on screen, Elisabeth Moss and Alexis Bledel, as well as the super talented director, executive producer of episodes 1 through 3, which we will see clips from tonight, Morano. So that was another intense episode. Okay, so this novel was written in 1985. Why did it take 32 years to give it its proper due? Anyone want to feel that?
I mean, they've tried everything, an opera, a ballet, a film. Maybe they hadn't tried this one yet. Yeah, I don't know. It's not an easy story to tell, you know? I mean, there's a lot of traps. It's complicated. It's a first-person narrative, the book. You know, that was one of the things that when I got the material for the first time, I was like, how are they gonna do this? It seems like a terrible idea to adapt this book. But I think they did it pretty well.
I was just going to say, could be also Margaret was ahead of her time.
Yeah.
And so...
Very prescient.
Yeah. So maybe it just takes some more modern storytelling to do it the correct way.
Right.
You know.
But I also would argue, like, there is this idea that we're living in the golden age of television, and you really need, like, the sort of, the 2 hours is not enough to really tell the story of these characters properly. And so why not? Like, it makes sense that it would become a TV series in this golden age of television we're in, and that would be the way to properly get into the characters. Now, everyone's calling this series timely, which, you know, obviously we're going to get a lot of laughs from the audience, but is this a timely story, or is this story always timely and it just happens to be somebody's, like, people are right now saying, like, you know, this is pretty timely?
I think it's always been timely because Margaret had, when she wrote this, and she basically said in numerous different places, she also told us, I think, over that cast dinner, but everything in the book has happened or is happening somewhere in the world right now. And that's how it was when she wrote it. And I think people are saying it's timely because, well, I think at the beginning when we got onto it, one of the things that I liked about doing the story was that I thought maybe it would sort of widen people's views of the world, and, you know, we tend to be a little bit sheltered, it's totally a generalization, but in America we tend to be a little bit sheltered because of the rights that we do have and what we've all been used to. And so initially for me it was an interesting story to take on because I thought, well, maybe it'll make people really appreciate what they have. And I think now it seems more timely because, you know, there are things happening that are hitting a little bit more close to home on a daily basis. And the whole, you know, message that Margaret was sending with the book is that big changes like this don't happen overnight. They happen very slowly over time, almost so that you don't know that they're happening until it's too late.
Right, the frog in the pot of water that's slowly boiling. Now, and can you even have a conversation about The Handmaid's Tale without invoking our current president, Donald Trump? And oh, we got some claps, all right.
He just won't let us, I think. He just keeps stepping right into it. And you know, it's something that I think that we aren't exactly happy about. You know, it's an unfortunate thing that we you know, have to kind of have that as a part of the conversation. You know, we don't want this to be happening. We don't want it to be quite this relevant. But it is, and I think that if we all can tell a story that sheds some light on something that needs to be talked about, then it makes your job all that more enjoyable, frankly, you know?
Right. And I think certainly with some of the moves that have been already proposed with regards to reproductive rights, definitely hearken along with this storyline, which I think gives it that sort of more immediacy, if you will. Alexis, do you have any thoughts on? Obviously, you and Elisabeth had worked together briefly on Mad Men. You know what? Another series that had, you know, very strong portrayals of women, but also in a time of obvious constraints, if you will. What was working on that series like, and bringing it to? What did you bring with it to this series, if anything?
Yeah, we got to meet on the set of Mad Men, though we didn't have any scenes together, so it was exciting for me to get to work with Lizzie on this project. Yeah, playing a housewife on Mad Men briefly in a few episodes, I don't know, I love the challenge of a period piece because you have all these interesting layers to incorporate into your character. And on this show, I get to play a character who has seemingly an infinite number of layers to simultaneously be playing around with, and I get to sort of draw different things out of her depending on what the scene requires. So it was an incredible challenge, and one that I really relished. So both were like dream jobs for me.
Maybe let's tell me, all three of you, your sort of genesis story with this project. How did you first, you know, did an agent call you up and say, somebody's mulling doing this, bringing this back to the screen? I'd love to hear all three of your stories, how you got involved with this project.
I was in Australia shooting and got sent the script, just the normal way, like through your agent, and the first episode. And I read it, and it was so good, and I was kind of like, damn it. Because I didn't know if I wanted to go do another series, you know, quite so soon. I thought maybe eventually, but it had only been like a year and a half or so since Mad Men finished. So I was like, damn, and then I was like, all right, let me read the second one. And I got the second one, and I thought it was even better than the first one, so I was like, fuck. And then... Quite literally, what I say at the end of that episode. Literally, I read it, and it's like, fuck, and I was like, fuck. Sorry, I'm probably not supposed to swear at all. And then I talked to Bruce Miller, our showrunner, for about an hour and a half, and asked him all the questions, you know, that you ask, and he answered them all kind of amazingly. And I think one of the best things that he said was, I don't want to do anything that anyone else has done. Like, we can try to refer to things, and we want it to look like this, or we want it to be like that, but really I want to do something that is new and that no one has ever seen. And I thought that was a really cool answer. And then, yeah, it just went from there. I talked to Warren, I talked to Hulu, and eventually just got to a place where I felt that it would be something I would hugely regret if I said no. And yes, that is true. I think I would have. I'm very, very glad that I said yes. That's my genesis story.
How did you become off Glenn?
I was offered the role in kind of the late summer, and I got the first 3 scripts, and that was really nice to get more than the pilot episode of a show right off the bat. And I loved the scripts. I thought they were amazing, so I said I accepted.
And if I may, it was one of those things that, like, that role was so important because it had to be something that was really mysterious at first, and then she had to have more depth, and we wanted somebody that people maybe knew, but we didn't want somebody that would be distracting. And when the name came up, I'm not sure who actually came up with the name first, but when it came up, it was one of those like, oh my God, yes,
Yeah.
that's such a great idea. She's perfect, and then thank God she said yes.
Thanks.
It's true.
Yeah, we were pumped.
I was excited.
I read the script. I read the pilot like probably February of last year when I was just starting to do some TV work, and they just sent it to me like, okay, just want to show you what Hulu's up to, but this is not like, you're not going to be able to pitch on this. It's out to like big directors and stuff. And I was like, okay. So
Let me ask, were they male directors too? Like, or
I won't say names, but it was a male director at the time who's
Okay.
very famous. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I was like, do I have to read it? Because I know I'm going to like it. Because I'd read the book in college, so I was just like, all right, I'm going to read this and be super depressed now. So, for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
So I read it, and I was really bummed because I was like, oh, if there ever was a pilot, I feel like I really get, like, and I know what to do, like, right off the bat. I was like, it's this one. So I immediately told everybody, like, oh, I want to pitch on this. And they're like, okay, well, you're meeting with Hulu and MGM, in a few weeks, so just tell them when you meet with them. And I was like, okay. So then I kind of did that. I had, like, a meeting with someone at Hulu who knows who he is, and we had a great conversation, and he was like, so you want to direct episodes of this or episodes of this? And I was like, yeah, sure, but you know what I really love? I really love The Handmaid's Tale. And he's like, oh yeah, that's a good one. And I was like, you wanted me to tell you what I think about it? Like, and I just started. Anyway, that didn't really go anywhere, but I did, we had a lively conversation and like shared a common ground creatively about like what we thought it should be. And I was like, all right, it's a step in the right direction. And then, over time, I kind of realized it was never gonna probably happen. And at some point, soon after that, I found out that Lizzie got cast in the lead role, and I was like, what? Because I already knew her, and we had worked together on my movie, which she graciously came and did a cameo in. So I like emailed her, and she was on top of the lake too, and I was like, oh, like she's not gonna write back, because this woman, when she's in it, she's in it. And I was like, but that's okay, I just let her know. And then a week or so later, I got a call that they wanted me to pitch, and I was like, Lizzie maintains that she had nothing to do with that, but come on. And so, somebody's got to get me in the room. And then, I made like a very crazy, extensive lookbook, and I made it into a hardcover and sent it to Bruce, FedExed it like overnight to Bruce Miller. And then I had a phone call, like a conference call with Bruce and Warren in May, and pitched them everything. And yeah. And then after that, they came back and they were like, also, they want you to do episodes 2 and 3 too. And I was like, what?
She literally made a 70-page lookbook. Yeah. With a playlist.
The playlist is
that you were instructed to listen to while reading the lookbook, and demanded that you listen with headphones.
I love
A little bit of a micromanager.
Yeah. But it was honestly, we all got on the phone, me, Bruce, and Warren, and she was obviously in the mix, and I was sort of, said what I could say about my experience with her and what I thought she could do. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you're not like, that she wins the job fair and square, which, she frankly just really did. We all got on the phone, me, Bruce, and Warren, and literally the conversation went, and there were a lot of directors on that list for the first couple of episodes, a lot of directors and a lot of big people, and she beat them all out. I mean, we got on the phone, yeah. True, yeah.
Thanks, Boo.
we got on the phone and it was literally like silence, and we all were like, so I think we have to go with Reed Morano, right? I think that's the only person we can hire, right? And thank God we did. Thank God she, worked so hard on and was so passionate about it,
And Reed, you are really responsible for the look of the show with those 3 episodes. You really established it. I would love to take a look at, can we go to clip number 1 and show the audience Now, for me as a viewer, like some of the most powerful things in that scene are the tiny things, such as like that little clenched fist, like just like. Tell me what you were kind of going for, what you were trying to accomplish with Elisabeth and her 2 co-stars, who are fabulous also in that scene.
Just this total and utter awkwardness.
Yes.
And uncomfortable, unsettling, sickening. Just, all the nice things you want people to feel when you're watching the show. They're also all doing such interesting things, and that, for me, is the most fascinating part, is just letting them do their thing and making sure we're in the right place to catch it, and I think in this scene, for example, everybody's a little bit uncomfortable because it's like this is a new situation for all 3 of them, and so they're all 3 shot handheld in this scene, and a lot of sort of awkward pauses and glances and stuff between them, and even offered sort of answering in the tone almost that maybe she shouldn't at some point, but just having to come out of her, which is amazing. And so, yeah, it's just like all those things that someone would maybe do in that situation for real,
And for you, Elisabeth, a lot of close-ups, a lot of. How is that, from an actress's perspective? So much is sort of reliant upon your ability to convey something with minimal words, and and to convey really powerful things with just that sort of simple, or even the quick, like, and you as well, or whatever you say to Joseph Fiennes' character, like, just like, but it was like a defiance by saying that. Like, you went too far by saying that, by the quick look from Yvonne.
Sure.
So
very naughty.
Like, you can be in trouble for that. How do you do that as an actress, like, with so, with, I imagine that Reed gives you a lot of direction, but like.
So much.
She's like, just go crazy.
The challenge is coming up with things that Lizzie doesn't think of. That's the real. It's like a fun game.
Yeah, you get a special prize.
Yeah.
If I haven't thought of it.
Interesting.
No, it's for me, speaking to the close-ups and the camera, it's so helpful. When you get to have part of your story told visually, it only helps your performance. And with those extreme close-ups, which were sometimes a lens, but often actual camera, just really close, it's wonderful. You feel like it's just you and the audience. Honestly, you can't see anything else sometimes because the matte box, which is the frame around the camera, blocks everything else out. So you just feel like it's you and the audience. And it's a wonderful kind of feeling to block everything out. So I find it extremely helpful, and for me, I love, as much as I've made a point to work with really good writers, I love that kind of silent film acting. I think I would have killed in the silent film era. I missed my time. I love just like expressing through the eyes and making everything as small as possible. To me, that's really interesting. And I think my favorite thing to do is to show the audience things that the other actors in the scene don't see, and to balance that is kind of my it's very fun for me. So this kind of thing and the way that we shot this was a dream as far as I was concerned.
With the light just sort of streaming in a little bit from the window, so lovely, and enhances like the awkwardness and the.
Yeah, that's like our DP, Colin Watkinson, is amazing. And when he came on board, we talked extensively about volumetric lighting, which is the light, that you can see the beams of light and the naturalism of it, but it's a little bit heightened. And so trying to get this almost like a balance of heightened realism in a way. So mixing like my handheld gritty style with his like more polished kind of glossier thing, and made a hybrid, this whole other hybrid that neither one of us could have done on our own, but made together.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So the hyper realism, and it's interesting because Hulu was very. I think that a lot of people, maybe even the audience, will think this is the near future, or it's like 5 years away kind of future. But they were like, no, this is the modern present day in an alternate reality. And I was like, okay. And with that, everything still in the world is the same sort of, and so like curtains are going to still have the same sort of snaps or whatever. But so it's when I knew that, I was looking at things in kind of a different sort of context. Like, okay, this is not 5 years in the future. This is now just now if things kind of went a little bit crazier. But
Yeah, if 3 years ago everything went south, that would be now.
Right.
So like 3 years from now. No. Just kidding. Cautionary tale. Be careful.
Now, Alexis, for you as an actress, like, how do you like the super close-ups and the having that? Is it pressure, or is it liberating, like Elisabeth says, like to kind of?
I feel like it's the best kind of pressure because you can't get away with anything false. You have to just be completely in the moment and authentic in your character, I guess. I really liked it. I mean, I was kind of up for anything Reed wanted to do visually. I was like, let's do that.
You're very pliable.
Yes. Yeah, so I don't know. I thought it was great.
Reed, where were some of the places you drew inspiration from besides obviously the book? Any movies or music?
I mean, I think music was a big thing. Music's a big thing, especially like for Lizzie and I too. But I gave the playlist that I made to everybody, and Lizzie makes her own playlists that she listens to, and then we started sharing. And
what's on your playlist, if you don't mind me interrupting?
You don't have enough time. It's very long. Most of my stuff is the same with Reed. It was one of the things that we connected about, I think, so deeply, really early on when we discovered, like, oh my God, we listen to the same kind of thing. And it ranges. I mean, it's everything, but it's a lot of orchestral, a lot of composers, a lot of film composers, a lot of depressing, emotional music, honestly, sometimes sweeping, sometimes smaller, but it's everything from Max Richter to Adam Taylor, our composer actually, was on my playlist. So yeah, it's just the same kind of thing. And sometimes it's a modern song, that's what,
sometimes it's like
kicks it
hardcore
in.
hip hop.
Exactly.
And we gotta like rev everybody
Sometimes
up.
it's Beyonce. There's a scene later on in the season that I specifically listened to Beyonce for. So it can range. I'll tell you after it airs.
And I'm sorry, I interrupted as you were talking about your inspirations, but
Yeah,
art, music.
music is, like while I made the lookbook, I was listening to a song over and over that was on the playlist that actually is in episode 3. And it's in the scene in the van with you and the Martha on the way to has everybody seen episode 3? On the way to the thing. that you go to, that thing you go to that's
Right,
not
the
fun.
thing, yeah,
Yeah.
horrible thing.
So and actually we ended up using that song there.
The sting.
And some other songs that we got inspiration from made it into.
Yeah, like I just found The Heart of Glass on iTunes once because I love Philip Glass. I was like searching for Philip Glass music and that popped up and I was like, oh my God, Reed, you gotta listen to this song, which is usually how it goes. I text her like, oh my God, this song's the best thing ever. And then she put it in the most perfect spot it could ever be in the show, which is
Yeah,
that
in
protest.
episode 3. And then trying to think other things that made it in. But anyway, once we started shooting the show, I didn't think that song was gonna make it in. I knew we could probably get the.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool when that happens. And then like movies, I think for the look of this, it was like going to be a mixture of inspirations. Like, obviously we do some pretty symmetrical compositions that are almost sort of oppressive in their symmetry, and that we were drawing a little inspiration from Kubrick for that. And then, we did a lot of to differentiate the present, or to differentiate Gilead from the past, instead of just doing the normal stuff to make, like the normal cliche, contrived way of showing that we're doing a flashback, we were trying to do some things that were a little more, everything would be sort of emotionally driven, whatever we did, like how we shot the show. And so I felt like the flashbacks could be the way you remember things, so like a fleeting memory kind of. And so a lot of the flashbacks that I did were more or less kind of, not perfect coverage and verite, kind of a romantic camera, a little bit impressionistic at times, and like a fleeting memory.
And how about other films that have sort of tackled, or projects, TV, I'm thinking of film, but like Children of Men, like another movie that sort of had this idea of like fertility is, there's no fertility left. And so a dystopian future. Did you draw upon anything like that, or?
No, but I think that there probably are, like I didn't draw upon particular movies per se, except for there's this wonderful movie called 4 Months, 3 Weeks, and 2 Days.
Yes.
And it's a wonderful movie.
Ninja,
Nice light comedy.
yeah.
Check it out.
I think I won at Cannes a few years ago, the Palme d'Or.
Yeah, it's I did watch it with my DP Colin because of there's interesting. It's really editorial choices, but it's kind of all over the place in how it shoots things, and it's always interesting choices, and they have almost like an emotional effect on you the way that they choose to do things. And so we actually watched that film prior to shooting as a little bit of inspiration. I think Colin was like, "Why are we watching this?" I was like, "Dude." But it's an editorial. It's about like making interesting choices where you don't have to see the other person in the scene all the time. And I think the point that I was trying to make is that it's a point of view show, and so whoever point of view you're in, you want to make the audience really see through their eyes. So that doesn't mean do standard coverage. That means really think about what that person is seeing in that moment and how they're seeing it and what it's registering to them. And most of the time it's with Offred. And I think, towards into episode 3, there are a few scenes with Afghan that are not in Offred's POV, and that was like the first time we ever departed a little bit. But it was always like, how is Offred seeing this? Hence why all of a sudden the slow-mo came into play. It was sort of like, I always knew I was gonna do the salvaging slow-mo, and then it was one of those things where on set sometimes I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna just shoot this stuff slow-mo. Like, remember when we shot Nick's bicep slow-mo?
Yeah,
When he was shoveling?
I do.
I don't know how that slipped out of the cut.
It never made it into the show. I have video of it though.
I shot that for you, boo.
Just, just in my phone. Never know.
Now, have any of you been have any of you been at all surprised by the enormous outpouring for this show so far? Like, it's quite remarkable, the type of response it's getting.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. We were just talking about this. You know, I think that you make something and you try to do your best with it, and you try to make something that you're proud of. And that's how we felt. We were really proud of the show, and we're proud of what we did. But you can never anticipate the way that, you know, an audience is going to react to it, or the way that a country is going to react to it. And I think that sort of extra level that it's gone as far as becoming a part of the conversation is something that we couldn't have anticipated, you know, and probably best that we didn't, you know, and we just tried to make a really good piece of art that we were proud of. So yeah, it's been honestly incredibly gratifying and moving, and we worked really, really hard on it, you know, for a long time. So it's been pretty wonderful that the audience has liked it in the way that they have.
And Alexis, have you been at all surprised, or did you see this coming a mile away?
No. No,
I knew.
I knew the whole time. No, I definitely had no idea that people would embrace it the way they have. I knew it was a great story when I read the scripts, and I was excited about it, but I had no way to know that so many people would, you know, see what I saw in it, you know, and be excited about it, and it's exciting. It's the ideal response. So it's incredible to be a part of a project that people embrace so fully.
We knew people were going to freak out about her in it, though. And we tried to tell her, but she just doesn't, which is great. She's like super humble and doesn't believe it, but which is good. But we would be like, you don't understand. Like people are gonna
freak out.
They're gonna freak out about your performance.
Well, I had some pretty awesome support as well in both of you, kind of making sure that it turned out amazing.
You did it. You did it.
That was pretty great.
And were you at all surprised?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think like everybody, we work on projects because we believe that they could be really special, and we try to always work on projects that we believe are going to be really special and do something amazing. And it's rare, you know, that doesn't happen all the time. And so I went into this just like every other project I've ever worked on, with all the hopes in the world for it. But, you know, you sort of, you just don't, I don't know, for me, I always have like this optimism, like it's going to be great, you know, but this is a rarity that this happens. So yeah, I guess I was surprised. I mean, I knew it would be received well by people, but I didn't know it would have this kind of, like it would reach this many people and, you know, have this kind of universal appeal in a way, because it's very divisive, polarizing story, not only in the subject matter, but in the way that it's told as well, you know?
There are definitely some late night texts between Reed and I that basically just consist of like, dude. So she was like, dude. What the fuck?
What's going on?
Yeah.
So weird.
I mean, I saw.
It is.
I saw a funny tweet the other day that was like, I think Handmaid's Tale is winning the Think Piece Olympics. I'm counting 460 think pieces on this show so far. But, I mean, it was like funny, but it's true. It's like this is what the smart people are sort of, you know, like. Right, all these people here. The smart people are, you know, like pondering, if you will. Let's can we go to clip number 2 and I love that scene because it sort of takes this motif of women in a grocery store that we've seen like 1,000 times, but also sets up the idea that every totalitarian state needs, which is like a spy could be among us and you better watch your back. Tell me kind of what you were going for in that scene, because there's a lot going on.
Yeah, I mean, it was important to us that it took place in Loaves and Fishes, the grocery store. And I remember when I first got to Toronto, they were showing me farmers markets, a lot of farmers markets. And I was like, well, the handmaids look like they belong in a farmer's market, so that doesn't really do it for me. I think it needs to be, like, I want to scare the shit out of people, so we need to put Handmaids and Marthas and Guardians with machine guns in the grocery store with fluorescent lighting and make it, and there's just no writing anywhere and no words, no letters.
And you fought really hard for it.
Yeah, that was a tough one to get, but we ended up getting it, and then I think, makes it nice, just appropriately disturbing, and also because it's one of the places where the handmaids can have a little bit of conversation, and it also reveals that they're not allowed to read, and that there's just a lot of details for people who haven't read the book and don't know the world yet, and so that part was important. And also just there's a lot going on obviously in Offred's head. She's thinking about some other things, and so's Offglen, but she doesn't let you know that. Trying to cover it up by making everyone get oranges.
So we've got some questions from the audience here, and this is a great one. To what extent do you think the sex in The Handmaid's Tale is consensual? And what does The Handmaid's Tale say about sex and rape culture? Two-parter. It's a very provocative question because,
Well, I assume the question's more about the ceremony than the
real consensual.
sex at the end of 5 there. 'Cause that was super consensual. The ceremony, right? I assume?
I would assume so.
I mean, for me, it's completely non-consensual. It's an absolute 1,000% sexual assault. It is a rape. There's no way that she would be doing that and in that position if she had a choice.
Right.
So yeah, and it was really important. I think Reed had the job of showing the ceremony for the first time in the show. And she did such a beautiful job with it, with the framing and with the visuals, because it had to be really clinical, it had to be really technical, and it was very important to us to make sure that it was not in any way at all sexual or sensual.
Right, and I think that's a great point. Like there's, if you even have a sort of a whiff of like, oh, this is,
Yeah.
it's so damaging to whatever point this is making, because then it's like.
They were very concerned. Like, I remember Joe kept saying, this isn't going to be sexy, right?
Yeah.
I was like, trust me.
Yeah.
This is so not sexy.
Yeah.
But I'm going to make it unsexier.
Right.
That's what I'm best at.
Right, right.
Making things very awkward and non-sexual.
Yeah.
But it's, I think it's all about like concentrating on the reality of what the Offred's noticing in that moment too. And like, it's not, and also a thing that was important to me too is that it's not just uncomfortable, it's just, first of all, Offred's being raped, so that's awful. But then also what's interesting is it's uncomfortable for everybody, at least in my ceremony scenes. Maybe it evolves later, but so it's one of those things where it's kind of interesting just to observe all 3 of you in that moment and see kind of like, Joe trying to Commander trying to disengage, and Yvonne trying to like keep her shit together, and Offred just going to another place oftentimes, just has to leave her body in a way, I think, but you could speak to that better than I can.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely like, the choice that I made and we talked about was just that she would have to not be there in order to be able to not scream, You just have to, I think, not be present.
It's humiliating.
Yeah.
Amongst many other things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and how about, here's a good question. How would you unwind after a shoot? And then this person wrote, help us recover.
Well, Reed and I do enjoy a cocktail, so I'm not sure about you, Alexis.
Glass
I believe
of wine.
so, yes.
Yeah.
So, if you can imbibe, we did. I mean, I think at the end, it's when you're shooting, with this especially, you're doing 70, 80-hour weeks, and you go home and you get in the shower and you eat your dinner by yourself, if you're me, and have a glass of wine and go to bed because you have to get up and very early in the morning and do it all over again. So it's it's not for me about having to do anything dramatic unwinding. It's about getting to sleep and getting back up and getting as much sleep as I can because it's a lot of work. I think that's true for all of us.
Me
really.
too,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just about getting as much sleep as possible. So, as far as you guys, I don't know what to tell you. You're fucked.
Talk it out.
Yeah. Alexis and I are offering support groups. You can call.
Yeah, we might start an outreach
Yeah.
sort of like talk it out forum after each episode. It really is heavy, though. I didn't find it, stressful to work on at all. It was such a friendly, supportive set, but the watching the show is really stressful for me. I'm definitely left with a lot of thoughts and feelings that I have to process. It is a different winding down that I don't know how to handle yet either. Let's figure it out.
And did you have any unwind techniques or?
Just made a Bloody Mary every night.
I'm curious, and this is not from the audience, I'm curious how much of a role Margaret Atwood had. I mean, she's a consulting producer, correct? And I think I see her very briefly in episode 1 slap you across the face. Okay, I was right. It's like she's in total shadow, so I was like, but I just could tell from the silhouette, I was like, that looks like Margaret Atwood. So how, and what did her involvement entail?
Well, I mean, I know that Bruce he would send her scripts at a certain point just so she could read them and, he could get her blessing, I think, so to speak. And I don't think she ever really put the hammer down on anything. I think she sometimes had questions. Which,
Do you want to tell what the one question was? She had one question about episode 2.
yeah, and she asked what's a carpet muncher? So she just wanted to know. So Bruce, he had one of his, I think, writer's assistants had to call Margaret up and explain that to her on the phone.
It was like Bruce.
So I wish I could have heard that conversation.
That would be...
But yeah, then she came to, we got to speak to her. I got to speak to her briefly at the cast dinner, and we were trying to hear what she was saying, and it was really hard to hear, and also not feel like a stupid person next to her. We were both like this.
But she is truly a genius.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, her books are phenomenal. I've read maybe all but 2 of her books, and I'm just like, this is, one of the greatest living writers right now.
Yeah, she's a legend. And so that was super amazing to be able to just even hear her talk about anything and everything.
Yeah.
And, after that, then she came to when we were shooting episode 1. And she came in, and I remember when Bruce told me that she was going to do a cameo, and he was like, yeah, we're going to have her do a cameo probably in that scene. And he's like, what do you want her to do? And she'll be like one of the ants, and what do you want to do? And I forget, I think you and I were both like, she should slap me.
Yeah.
No, it's like that.
That is
It was already in the script, I think, right? That was in the script, and then...
Yeah, but I think we talked about it before, or there was somebody else was getting slapped.
Somebody else, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, and I think you were like,
First of all,
she just slapped me.
I should get slapped.
Yeah.
I should get the slap.
Yeah. So we were really excited when she came,
Yeah.
and I was so nervous because here I'm already trying to visualize her book, and then she comes in and now I have to tell her
What to do.
how to be it was the weirdest thing ever. I was like, this is super awkward, but here are your sides. Like, she had fun though.
Yeah, she was great. And apparently she was nervous, which she did not show. She was like cool as a cucumber and appropriately terrifying, and
She got into it.
Yeah.
At a point.
Yeah. After a few takes, she gave me a real wallop.
Didn't she deadpan that, like, that'll forever be my legacy or something like that?
Yeah.
After the fact, she was, that'll be my image now.
I know.
Well, perhaps we could see clip 3, which I believe it's not her slapping you, but it's that same, you're in the classroom with Aunt Lydia. So if we could roll clip 3. Very chilling words, this will become ordinary. There is a great deal of violence in the series, and some of it very disturbing, what happens to Janine with her eye, but also the scene where the rapist man gets beaten. That was the scene for me that was most difficult to watch. Thoughts on violence in the series and sort of what its place is and why it's important?
Well, I mean, I think, the point, for me, and I know also for Bruce and Lizzie and everybody involved in the show, was to make it feel, to not put up a wall between the audience and the story and make it feel as real as possible. And so we're not trying to glorify violence at all, but also make sure that when the moments are raw and we're trying to send a message, that people receive that message. So, I think that people think when they're watching a show that's maybe predominantly about women, and that kind of thing is going to be sort of glossed over, or maybe the show's not going to have balls, but
It's got balls.
yeah, I just don't want people to mistake that what the message is, and that it's really fucked up, and these things happen in other countries, and people should see that and not be protected from it. I mean, if they're making the choice to watch the show or they don't want to see it, they don't have to watch. But it's, I think, a way to kind of, it creates a feeling in you, and it should not make you feel good, but that's the point. So, I'm sorry.
No, very effective. I think we probably have time for 1 or 2 more questions, and I'm curious what happens season 2. I know you can't give spoiler, but it has been renewed. What is the sort of intended arc? A lot of times I'll ask, somebody okay, are you seeing this as a 3-season? And obviously it'll change. Like with Game of Thrones, there were 5 books, 5 seasons, but obviously now we're on season 7 or whatever. But is this something like this is intended as a 3-season story arc, or?
I feel Bruce and I talked about it at the very beginning, and it's obviously it's up to how much people want to see of it at a certain point. It's not up to us, but there is kind of an intention to, we don't want to explore everything in one season,
Right.
So with season 1, there's so much that was left out to give more time to fully explore a few things rather than, cover all 50 of them. So the writers are, they're in the writer's room. So Bruce and I have had some first kind of initial conversations about things that may happen, but it's all way too early. But I do know that the idea is definitely to, continue to explore things deeply and, to really give time. I mean, that's the great thing that you have in a series that you don't have in a film, in a series that has multiple seasons that you can do, where you can really explore a theme for 10 episodes. And,
Right.
you know, I think, so I know that that's what was intended in season 1, and I know that that's the intention for the next, as far as like how, I mean, who knows?
Right. And also, I think what seems that one could deviate from the book very easily, because between the book and what you've set up visually, there's a world created here, and you know, you don't need to be like, okay, well, this didn't happen on page 200 and whatever. You know, like there can be a whole sort of like, you have this world now that can be explored.
Yeah, exactly. And like anybody who's read the book knows, you know, there's a huge gap between the epilogue and the end of the book, where there's a lot of unanswered questions. I mean, literally, if someone hasn't read the book, I don't want to spoil the last line of the book, but it has to do with questions. And it's, you know, it's very true. There's so much that hasn't been said in that book. And I think that, you know, we're looking forward to kind of exploring that as well with Margaret, you know?
Okay, all right, great. And so you guys all have like 3-year contracts or something? No, I don't know. Multi-season. And I think I can take one more very quickly from the audience for Alexis. Alexis, this is such a different character than most of us are used to seeing you in. What drew you to this character, and what motivates your performance?
Well, Ofglen is an incredible character on paper. I mean, she has her former life, pre-Gilead, which was fairly normal. She had a family, and she, you know, was going about her regular day-to-day. And then in Gilead, she has a cover that she sort of wears in order to survive, of the pious person who's following all the rules. And then she's also a member of Mayday, so she's always kind of looking around and paying attention and trying to gather information, or maybe recruit somebody to the resistance. So it's such an appealing character. You have so much to do there. And I always just try to look for characters that are very different from the last character I played, and I've done that for a long time in a lot of work that nobody really saw, or a few people saw. And actually, because you know, I started in work that a lot of people saw, and then had to kind of learn how to act as I went along. I stretched in many different directions that were like way too far before I figured out what my wheelhouse actually is. So I've played characters who have like a rebellious streak before, and I really like that. That really appeals to me, because they're independent thinkers, and they're really capable of anything if they're willing to be apart from the group. You don't know which direction they're going to go in, so it's exciting for me when it comes to the storytelling, and especially on a TV show, because you never know what is going to be written for you. It's like a surprise every episode, so it's even more surprising, and might as well just up the ante there and make it a complete surprise. But no, that she just had so many appealing things for me, all things that I have done and can do, but kind of wrapped into one. So I was like, oh, this is amazing.
All right. Well, thank you all for coming tonight. To our lovely panel, and I know there's plenty more in store in episodes 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, so enjoy, everybody.